you like to buy that?
What's that?
Would you like to buy that?
I think we are, yeah.
Okay.
Why?
I'm just curious. I'll tell them to give it to you for $25, all right?
Oh, is it
It's
your
mine.
booth? Oh! Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Yvonne. You have landed on Ginger Chick Rehab, where I love to take pre-loved items, secondhand finds, thrifted finds, and share the process with you, my vision, my inspiration for making these items over that may be a little bit worse for wear. So in today's video, I'm teaming up with IOD. Their amazing spring release. I'm sure that you by now have seen quite a few, if not all of their items that they have come out with for the spring. I am still in the process of working with them little by little. So in today's video, I am taking some tin, some metal items that have seen better days, and I'm sharing the process with you how to make metal items over. Metal's not just, I can't say you just slap paint on metal. It does take a little TLC to get paint to last on metal. So I hope that I'm going to share the right process with you all of how to go about it. There's definitely something about this shape of tin containers, canisters that just draw my eye. They have a primitive vibe that I love, but this one doesn't really have any graphics left whatsoever. And when they do have graphics, I can't touch them at auction. They go for a lot of money. So we're going to try to make this one pretty again. So I'm going to start off with sanding. Yep, sanding metals. I need to get everything to be as, well, you know, as flat as I possibly can make it. Just working off the rest of whatever paint or whatever labeling is still on there. It may not be perfect, but I'll try my best to get it as smooth as I can get it. And sanding it also will help when I go to paint it, give the paint something to grab onto, not just a smooth surface. And there is just a little bit of rust here and there, and the same just like the paint, I'll just go ahead and try to sand that nice and smooth as I can possibly get it. Look at my hand. My hand is just a mess, and you wouldn't have thought there was going to be that much residue left on this little tin. So we're sanded. I took the air compressor, kind of blew it out, making sure that I didn't have a lot of sanding dust. And I've already washed it once in Dawn dish soap in my sink in my kitchen, but I'm going to give it one more wipe down, making sure that I have everything nice and clean. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a couple coats of shellac. So the shellac for me is going to act as a primer. It's going to give one more thing for paint to grab onto. It's going to even out the porosity. It's going to adhere to that metal just a wee bit better than just putting paint right on it. Now I'm going to go ahead and take Rust-Oleum's enamel paint in the flat black spray paint and spray the entire thing, giving it a nice base coat. This again, that's going to attract to what the shellac was and kind of darken everything down and make it so it has an even tone. I could leave this as it is. I could add a top coat to it, but I want to change the hue of the color just a little bit. I didn't really want this to be black, so I'm going to use Fusions paint in the Wellington color, which is, I thought it was a little bit more blue, but on the black it's coming out to be like a dark gray, but that's okay. I still like it. So it's just going to give it that, just that hue of color. And could I have done this right over the shellac? I could have, but I just really wanted it to start out with a really clean palette underneath, making sure that everything was level and filled in. And I thought between the shellac and the enamel paint, that should have done the job. So just doing a couple thin coats of this Wellington in this beautiful color, that primitive vibe going on here. When you're doing like the Fusions paint and you don't want to see brush strokes, minimal paint on your brush. This paint goes a long way. It's got paint, primer, and top coat all in one. And so when you just have that, look at how that coverage is. I hardly have any paint on my brush and it's covering beautifully. I mean, yes, I'm going to need a second coat, but you don't need to glop all that paint on your brush. That is a lot of times what gives you those brush strokes. But I am going to be doing some decoupage with some stampage going on. So for that very front area, I'm going to use picket fence in white to back my decoupage paper. I'm undecided what I wanted to do with the flat part yet, but I know that I need to paint this at least one color, one coat anyway, of the picket fence white to get my decoupage paper to pop. I just put one coat of the Fusion's picket fence on, and then I decided I wanted some crackling. I didn't just want it to be a flat, I wanted to have an old-timey look. So I went ahead, it happens in the middle of a project, you change your way of thinking of what you want to do, and this is the case here. So I'm going to go ahead and mix up some of the Sweet Pickins, Flour Sack, Milk Paint to finish my white color up. I only needed one coat of the milk paint since I already had one coat of Fusion's paint. Look at that beautiful crackle. Now I'm going to go ahead and seal that milk paint in with some Weather Defense clear coat. I so love that they came out with these gorgeous boxes, so it's like a reveal when we open up these boxes and show you what is inside. So I am going, look at these, and I know you all probably have seen them by now, but oh, I just absolutely love the Mercantile, which is right up my alley. Oh, grain sack, chickens, cow, dry good. So much about this stamp set I like. So now don't forget, when you get your new stamps though, there is a little bit of prep that you have to do because they come straight from the manufacturers. They've been heated to get your stamp set to take the best. Once you paint it, ink it up to stamp it onto something, there is a little bit of prep. So if nobody has told you, maybe you already know, go ahead and fast forward through this part. But I always like to have a good reminder of this. You only need to do this once. 220 sandpaper, some type of sandpaper, just along that edge. It doesn't take much. It just is enough to open up, just like painting something, you're opening up, you're getting it to accept the ink and paint that you're going to be putting on there. Little minimal work, only have to do it once. You can definitely tell the change, that it's not glossy anymore, and it really will take your paint ink so much better if you do this. For this project, I'm going to be making my own decoupage paper. Yep, just using plain old white tissue paper that you can get from the Dollar Tree store. But I don't want to use it plain white. I want to give it some age. So I've got some water in a spray bottle. I'm just going to mix up some instant coffee. So I do instant coffee in a spray bottle a lot. I never really realized how much I use it. They were suggested to change it out often, which is what I'm going to do. Or you can put a little bit of alcohol because it will start to decompose and mold. Now tissue paper is thin enough, but then when you wet it, it's going to be even thinner. So I have it on a board, and then there's two different sides to tissue paper. This tissue paper has a shiny side, and this has a dull side. So I'm spraying my dull side because that's the side that I'm going to be wanting to stamp. It's really going to take better on that dull side. All I'm doing is misting it. I put the board on underneath so that way I can move it and still use my workspace for other projects that I'm working on. I set it off to the side, I let it dry, and unfortunately my board, since I use my boards a lot, I think it had some of my Dixie Belle patina on it, but I kind of like it. It could be just a mess, but I'm okay with that. I thought, you know what, I wanted it to look old, so I'm just going to work with it as it is. So after it dried, of course it didn't dry very pretty. It didn't dry flat by any means. I'm just taking my little Cricut heat press and just trying to flatten out the creases a little bit. But yeah, I kind of like those imperfections of where my patina paint, once it got wet, like the overspray when I would do rust patina or anything like that. Hey, I kind of, what does Bob Ross said? It's those happy little accidents. For me, it's that perfectly imperfect. Now this little tin does not have a lot of space to work with. That's always the hardest part of any project, is the size. But I think number 7 will work, and I think that I can get the rooster also to work. I think it will fit. So not stamping directly on. This is why I'm making my own decoupage paper, because if I make a mistake on the tin, I'm kind of stuck. I have to repaint. I have to try to fix that. But if I have decoupage paper or my tissue paper that I created myself, I can mistake away and I can just keep making it until I like it. Now you see the concept of why I created my own decoupage paper. So now I'm using the stamping grid, stamping mount, to be able to make sure that I am all level, I'm close. Now my number 7 and my rooster need to be really close together, like they are touching, but that's okay because it's not really touching because it has that outer edge of the stamp. So I'm using IOD's permanent ink in black. I'm just going for black, no fancy colors right now, and then I'm just inking it up. But let me tell you, I'm not going to waste my tissue paper that I spent the time distressing. I'm going to practice first and make sure I like what I like on a scrap piece of paper, making sure that it's the image I want to see. And I really, when I'm doing stamp sets, I like to use my large Cricut scraping tool. I really feel like I can get even pressure over the stamp set to get that ink to transfer onto my paper. See, little did I know that somehow a little piece of paper got onto that number 7 and made a blank space on the ink. But see, so it was good to practice on a side piece. Got that little piece of paper off the 7, and now I'm going to go, even though I have a large piece of tissue paper, it's better to practice first on something you don't really care too much about. So I'm just going to directly stamp right on it. Now I like to put another piece of like grid paper underneath, like what I'm using now, the stamping mount, because the image will go all the way through your tissue paper. Then I'm always holding it with one hand that it is not shifting, it is not moving around, it is not getting a blurred image. And that scraping tool does help a lot. See, holding it, scraping tool, look at that image transfer. It is gorgeous. You know how that goes. Sometimes you have to give yourself your own applause because stamping is not always the easiest thing to achieve. So I'm hoping that I'm sharing all my little tricks with you all. So now I don't need this whole piece of paper. So I'm just going to cut it down to more of a workable size. I have plenty on the side. I wanted to make sure that I was going to be completely covering up most of all that white if I can. Now I'm using Decoupage Transfers Gel. This is by Fusion also. This is amazing stuff. I have stopped using Mod Podge because this does not bleed the paper. This does not, it's not going to make my stamp ink bleed by any means. It's not going to disturb my coffee stain on my tissue paper. It is amazing stuff. Well worth investing in. So yes, so it's just like your Mod Podge. It's an adhesive. I put it all over there, and now I'm just going to go ahead and slightly, very so gingerly, tissue paper when wet will rip very, very easily. So fingered it on first. Now I'm going to put my hand inside a Ziploc and then start making sure that tissue paper is hard to get completely flat. I don't mind wrinkles. I think it gives it that aged look, but I just need to make sure that it's adhered down. I let it completely dry. I usually have a fan going on in my studio that helps things dry. Tissue paper you have to weight down, but I'm just taking a ruler and a very sharp X-Acto knife and just cutting off the edge on the metal. I'm not cutting so hard that I'm cutting through my paint to get back down to the metal, and my white paint may not have been as straight of a paint job, and that tin is not itself is old, so it's not perfectly straight either, but sometimes you just have to work with what you have and make do with what you have. And then now I'm just going to take that 220 sandpaper again, and I'm just going to do a downward motion, cutting it off that curved area. I find is, filing it off. It just works a little bit better. Now I'm going to do a top coat, top layer anyway, of that Decoupage Transfer Gel one more time. I know that where I made the cuts, I can't say that it was completely sealed in there to be adhered down. So one more coat on top is not going to hurt. As you see, look, it doesn't disturb the image or that coffee stain at all. Okay, we are all dry. I'm just going to take some fine grit steel wool, which is the double 4 steel wool, the finest steel wool that they make. I'm just sanding the metal part. I just am trying to take that glossy off. As you see, when you have a little bit of paint and light brush strokes, look at that. There's hardly minimal brush strokes, if any brush strokes even on here. But I'm just going ahead and taking that shiny off the metal. So now I'm really going to go in and I'm going to give this some more age using Jolie's black wax very gingerly, starting out on the outer edges. I'm going to be waxing the whole box itself anyway, but I really want to go around those edges just where, you know, over time things would have aged. And after I kind of like wiped it on, I'm going to do a tapping motion. That'll hit any of those raised wrinkled areas that I did not mind by any means that were there, because those are the ones that are going to be giving it more character. And now I'm going to take some of the Homestead wax, which is made by Fusion. So all the Fusion products you can get at the Painted Heirloom. And I'm just blending that all in. And then just keep mixing until I achieve the look that I'm going for. Even though Fusion has a top coat, I sanded it, I scuffed that shininess off. I just really like the look of what black wax does to this dark paint. So I'm just going to add it in there, and it's really going to really give it that authentic, I've been around for a long time look. Then my last step, I'm just going to seal that in. Yes, you can clear coat over wax. It's perfectly fine. I am going to do a little bit more of the weather defense on top of this to make sure that everything is sealed in. So what a lucky day that we were in an antique mall and we just happened to be looking at this worst for wear. And I was looking at it because I wanted to make it over. And I still thought the price of $30 was a good price. I don't know if you all would think that, but I watched these go over $100. The shape of this older tin is what I was looking at. Somebody had painted what maybe they're over their original tin itself. You can definitely tell by the knob that this is not its original paint job. So the gentleman was just happened to be at the right place at the right time to offer it to me for $25. Whether you think I paid too much for it or not, I don't know what to tell you. But I had been watching it in this antique booth for a while, and I'm like, oh, I just really want to make it over. I'd seen a couple of these just recently come up for auction where I didn't even get to start on any of the bids. So I thought, okay, so let me see if I can take this knob off, because I know that I'm going to have to do some sanding or something to try to remove the paint that's on here. But that is a no-go. This is soldered metalled on, so that knob is staying as is. Well, staying where it's going to be anyway. And maybe I wasn't the first one to attempt taking off the painted layer image, because you can tell there must have been birds on there. Those leaves are actually real dried plants that just are not staying adhered anymore. So I'm going to see, just by taking 80 grit sandpaper, if I can sand it off first. Trying the easy route first. That felt like it was going to take forever and a day, so then I decided I was going to switch over to the grinding wheel that you put on your drill and see if I could get, if that would take off a little bit more, especially since I have that like dip area. Well, no, that wasn't really working. So my last attempt to remove the paint off here that is not even by any means and lots of texture and coming off anyway, of course not where I wanted to come off, is just to do plain old stripper. I don't have to worry about the sides, but it's the front area. It's this area, it's the flap area, and it's on top. It all has the texture paint. It all has the dried ferns in there. So I just have to work little by little, area by area. Yeah, I am not a patient person when it comes to stripper because I want, like, when I'm sanding, I like can see it moving. I have to be good, and I have to walk away and let it do what it needs to do. I admit that I am not patient, and as you see, I don't use a lot of stripper here on our channel. That is why, because I'm not patient to let it do its job, but it will work. If you give it the time that it needs to, it will work. I just have to repeat a quote that I read the other day. Of course I struggle, I just don't quit. And that goes right for this project. I thought I was going to be able to easily sand this off. No go there. No go on the drill, stripper. You know, that's the thing. You just don't give up. It's so easily just to sit it off to the side. But there is ways to make it work. Maybe not in the order you wanted it to be, but just don't give up. It's just a project. It's not any big deal. It's just a project. This is what I meant when I said I had to work in sections, because I couldn't put stripper on while it was laying down on this part, because it would just all fell off. Just like this front area, I have to lift that up somehow to keep the stripper from just rolling down. Whether it gets off to the side that doesn't need stripped, it's whatever, it's fine. But yes, I just need to put it on, let it do its time. Yep, some pieces of wood work to keep the flap open so I could get some stripper on there. We just do what needs to be done to complete a project. Very seldom do I let a project beat me. Do I get frustrated? Heck yeah! I am human. I am flawed. I am human. But then I just kind of try to rethink how I can tackle this project and complete it. Because, you know, I always like to share these kind of things, because I know that I always hear people say, oh, you know, that would have been too much work. I wanted to give up. I would have set it off to the side. Don't let it win. That's all I have to say. Don't let it win. Oh, okay. So now this thing needs a good cleaning, especially with stripper. And of course, it's a snowy, rainy day, so I couldn't get my power washer out. But luckily, I have a big old sink that I could barely fit this in, making kind of a mess. So I'm just going to go ahead and scrub it with some Dawn dish soap, some hot water. Whew, look at that. How much I got off of there. Is it all the way off? No. Is it good enough? Yes, because we're going to be painting over it. So I got the knob cleaned off. I taped that off to protect it, and now I'm sealing everything in, giving it a good priming, even out porosity coat of shellac. I'm going to go ahead and do 2 coats, letting it dry in between. And then maybe this is just for a visual that I can't handle all that going on, that I need to seal this in with that enamel paint by Rust-Oleum. That way I'm just starting off with a fresh, clean palette and an even surface to work with. Because, boy, didn't it look like a hot mess, and you didn't think it would spray. I mean, there's uneven textures, but not like the texture it was before. And when it comes to spray painting, as you see, I overlap every time I move down, or I try to anyway, as soon as I'm explaining this to you. Just keep overlapping by 50%, and you should be able to get the coverage. Of course, I missed a couple little overlaps because it's a weird curve going on there. But that is my suggestion for spray painting. I know I get a lot of comments that people think I'm really good at spray painting. Well, I've done a lot of it. So back and forth motions, continuous motions, always going over what you already spray painted. 50% will give you that nice even spray paint. You don't want to go back in and spray again because you're going to make it run, and those are not fun. I didn't intend for these pieces to be stark black. The spray painting is just making them that way, and yes, I could leave them as is, but I don't want to. So I'm using Fusion's cast iron, which is still a dark, almost black paint, just a different hue, to then proceed on repainting this yet again. I know, probably too many steps for people, but you just keep working with something until you love it, and when you have a vision in your head. There again, you just keep working with your vision until you achieve the look that you're going for. And jet black wasn't what I was going for these. So I'm going to be repeating a lot of the same steps to get to the point of putting on my make it myself decoupage paper. But it's funny because I just keep this piece is so big. I don't know if you can tell. I hope you could tell. This is huge. I feel like I'm working on a small little furniture piece, not just a canister that goes into your kitchen to store things. When I was staining the tissue paper, I did 2 sheets. So I have 2 sheets that I'm going to be working with because it is going to take a good portion of a full sheet of tissue paper. So over here, the one that kind of got that's the one I used for the first project. This one that doesn't have the crease in it, and then it has some of the markings from the patina paint. Well, you'll have that. I still like it. Yes, I'm just putting on my stamps to see how the design is that I want to create. Okay, hold your applause. One more step yet, though. Let's see if we can achieve this. So I'm going to be using the grain sack stripe stamp. Oh, okay. So, but to achieve this, we need to use the masks that come with the stamp set. So if you have not used the masks, I hope that I am helping you to figure out why your pack of stamps came with masks, or you already know how to use a mask. But, you know, there's always somebody, at least one person that's never used them. So the masks come with your stamp set. When they come, they're still on the piece of paper. You need to punch them out, and then you just overlay them on what you've already stamped. So I'm going to, of course, go to my blue paper where I did my trial first and share with you how to do it. It wasn't until I tried to cover my wreath up that I realized I must have had my stamp stretched out, so I don't have a perfect match on the mask, but it's that perfectly imperfect. It's already stamped on the tissue paper. I'm not redoing it. It's just going to be what it's going to be, and I know it'll work out, and it'll still be beautiful. Imperfections are so beautiful. We're just so critical of ourselves. Look at that! I told you, you don't perfectly imperfect. It's gorgeous. I just highly always suggest a tester piece just to make sure that you're on the straight and narrow, especially if you're putting the stamps right onto the object. But now I need to clean all my mask up, and I need to start from scratch because I don't want to transfer the ink where I don't want the ink to be onto my image that I'm going to be using. Just a little Clorox wet wipe will do the job. Dry it off before putting it onto my decoupage paper. I've been trying out a body cam so I can get a little bit more up close and personal. So I'm really hoping that I'm not making anybody dizzy. Trying to stay focused, trying to look in the camera and look at the project at the same time. I'll get used to it, but it's just all new. It's just kind of like filming and always doing everything in reverse so that you all can see what I am doing. So same procedure of putting it on. I'm just going to go ahead and slather the decoupage transfer gel all over this first, and then just pray for the best when I go to put it on. Yes, even with that Ziploc on my hand, I did get a little rippage going on there, but you just work it to your design in the hopes. Even though I sealed the milk paint and I don't think it'll grab the black as much, but I love how this turning out. You know, like you start with the small one, kind of do this like your tester piece, and then you just throw yourself into the big one. Actually, really, I do both of these projects at the exact same time. They're just shared with you one by one. But yes, I love the mistake of the happy little mistake of that patina spray coming through on the paper. It's just, what do you think of the turmeric color, the ink? Oh, I hope you have all the ink colors because you just never know which one you're going to use. Yes, I use a lot of the black, but it's fun to do that accent color. This is just coming together amazing. This now, after I see it all be said and done, I'm like, who cares that I had to go through that process to get all the paint off? It was well worth it. So thank you so much for watching today's video, and what did you think? Have you already purchased the stamp set through IOD? If not, I hope they're not already back ordered by the time this video airs, because green sack stripes, if you love green sack stripes, that one right up my alley, and animals. It has that old-timey antique that I love, so I knew that I had to have this stamp set. So I hope that I've shared a few ideas with you all. And don't worry, my head's still spinning. I'm sure I'll have some more to go. So let me know down in the comments which of the items I made over today were your favorites. And was I crazy using all that paint stripper trying to get, but that big one, it needed a makeover extremely bad. Usually I would not touch something because an aged patina would be beautiful, but when the antique dealer himself is saying, this has been here too long, please take this off my hands. Yes, please, I will. So thanks again for watching today's video. As always, if you're part of our YouTube family, thank you so much. And if you're new and you're checking out this channel for the first time, and you are a lover of pre-loved thrifted secondhand finds, not only to decorate your own home with, but you like to get inspiration by others of how to make items over, please smash that subscription button along with the notification bell so you know when we've uploaded a new video. And we will see you next time, guys, and you can see what we're up to. Bye.